Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Celtic Down Under weekend review. My name is Anthony McGuire. We are joined with Paul Massey and Dave Connolly. Yes, I got that right. Dave Campbell, yes. As we discuss Celtic 3, Hibernian 1. Bit of a fight back from the Celts at Parkhead on what was a very sunny day in the centre of Glasgow. Before we get into that, may as well do a quick whip around and see how our weekends were, because we haven't really chatted much during the weekend. So, Paul, what did you up to on the weekend?
Yeah, thanks, Anthony. Not a lot on Friday, I don't think. It's a bit of a blur, to be honest. I think I quite won on Friday. At home, not much doing. Saturday night, I went to see a Scottish comedian called Connor Burns as part of the Perth Comedy Festival. Former Celtic striker in the audience as well of an evening. Certain Mr. Lee Griffiths. I was in the sort of upper first tier. There's a second tier, and he was on the ground, so I could see him. He couldn't see me, but yes, he gets around Perth these days, doesn't he? So up from Dave's neck of the woods, I guess. And yeah, that was good. Up and coming Scottish comedian. So yeah, did that. Had a couple of beers either side. Got myself home in time for the kickoff. Sadly, those earlier beers had a bit of a taming effect on my ability to stay awake for 2 hours, and I fell asleep after the Hibs goal, and woke up about 2:30 a.m. on the sofa. So retired to bed and got up nice and early about 6:30 without knowing the score or the rest of the score, and picked up the game from just after the Hibs goal and watched the rest of it back. So yeah. As good as watching it live, I suppose.
If you don't know the score.
Didn't look at my phone, didn't know the score. So, yeah, all the usual excitement. So, yeah, that was me. And then Sunday was I went to the cinema, watched Thunderbolts. So that was good. But, yeah, pretty tame weekend, really.
Davey, do you have too much the weekend, mate?
Not really. No, not too much. I was doing something on Saturday night when I was kind of watching the game, half watching it and not. And then, as I say, I'd been busy all weekend doing other things, and I wasn't intending to be here, as you know, tonight. I managed to get away early, and so I've not actually reviewed. I managed to just quickly look at the goals again before I signed on, but I haven't looked again at the game in full over the weekend or anything because I've not had the time. I'm just trying to keep myself busy because I'm going through the administration process of visas and stuff like that, so I'm trying to keep myself busy outside that by volunteering and things. So yeah, I'm doing what I can, picking the family up from different places when I can as well. So yeah, but no, nothing too exciting, nothing to write home about. I'll leave that maybe for 2 weeks' time in the cup final.
Fair play. I made it to the Doctors' game on Thursday night. It was unusual to have an AFL game on a Thursday night in Perth, but managed to get along to that. Unfortunately, the Doctors got beat, but still, it was a good evening. Took my new cat, Bruce, which I think I introduced everyone to a couple of weeks ago. So he got diagnosed with a very serious autoimmune condition on Friday, which we weren't expecting. A very expensive autoimmune condition, but thankfully we've picked up on it early, so hopefully he will make a full recovery. He's staring at me right now off camera. And Saturday we had in-laws over, so it was Mother's Day, so we had an early Mother's Day, so that was nice. So put some pizzas in the oven. And Sunday was a day of rest, because just also felt a bit crazy from I felt like a long weekend, even though it wasn't really a long weekend. But anyway, and obviously somewhere in there, managed to watch the Celtic game. I think a bit like you, Paul. I was dozing off at one point, but managed to pull it together. And I hadn't really been drinking that much, so I don't really have that as an excuse. But it felt quite comfortable, actually. So I said to my dad at halftime, I said it would have been a travesty had we had gone in at halftime behind or even drawing, because I thought it was one of Celtic's best performances, especially the whole game, but first half in particular, we absolutely bossed it. What felt like we bossed it. But obviously, Hibs couple of minor forays up front, which we'll talk about. But Paul, team lines, Kasper Schmeichel, the big inclusion back in after extended layoff with injury with Denmark during the Nations League campaign. Austin Trusty coming in for Carter Vickers, who was rested by all accounts. Tony Ralston retaining his place at right back, as did Greg Taylor and Liam Stales. Usual midfield three, McGregor, Engels, and Hatate. And then that left Maeda, Ida, and Kuhn to lead the line. Pretty strong team, Dave, that you said. Paul, any shocks there? Anything that sort of caught your eye in the lead up to the game?
Well, Rodgers spoke a lot in the pre-match presser about rotating the squad, giving other players a chance, a good opportunity to see other players on the fringes, just mix it up a little bit. And then he picked pretty much his strongest team and didn't really do any of those things. So if he's going to do that, he's saving it back for Aberdeen on Wednesday and maybe Flag Day. But look, I think we've all known that CCV was going to get a rest. I think, and again, there wasn't much to defend in this match, but what had to be defended wasn't done that well, and once again proves that CCV is an absolute must in the team for the biggest games, and the cup final will be a big game. So, despite Aberdeen's relatively mixed bag of form, you want your best team available for that match. So, giving CCV a bit of a rest makes total sense for me. I think the goalkeeping situations, you can look at it one of two ways. I think Sinisalo hasn't really put a foot wrong, and you could argue that it's a little bit harsh to drop him at this point. But he wasn't expected to get any game time really this season, and he stepped in when needed. But Kasper Schmeichel's the first choice keeper and has had a pretty flawless season himself. And so only fair you bring your best keeper back in to the squad and team. If you plan to play him in the cup final, then he needs a couple of games under his belt. So bring him back. Clearly, that's what Rodgers has decided to do. Again, in the pre-match press conference, Brendan Rodgers mentioned how they had thought they might need to put Sinisalo out on loan next season to get him games and to see if he was up to scratch. He doesn't necessarily feel like he needs to do that now because he's had game time. He's more than proved he's up to scratch. So what that really means for him next season is an interesting one. Will he get both cups and be the cup keeper like happens down south quite a lot? Or is he going to just be the backup all season? And, it depends if Schmeichel gets injured or drops completely out of form, which you wouldn't expect. So, yeah, I think there was a lot of people tried to make it seem like it was a shocking omission and decision to bring Kasper back quite so quickly. But I think if your goalkeeper is just one of those, and Dave will be able to attest to this better than anyone, but goalkeeper is one of those positions that unfortunately doesn't really matter how good your form is or otherwise. If your best keeper's fit, he comes back in once he's recovered from his injury or suspension.
Yeah, it is interesting, Paul, because what you brought up there, Brendan Rodgers actually did address a couple of those points in the post-match conference, which I had the chance to listen to just while I was eating my dinner just before I came on here. And first thing he said was that basically you're working towards a cup final and then you're working back from that in terms of the number of minutes players need or have had. The other thing is you're looking at the fact that it's been a week since Celtic's played. So again, the need to rest players, wasn't really there for this game. But I think, as a few people have said in their comments, McLaughlin P, he thinks the changes will happen against Aberdeen, and he also thinks that Aberdeen might ring some changes as well and not show their complete hand to us. And then also, John Clement's saying here the possibility maybe a few of them coming in. And I think that's fair because then that still gives you one more game at home to fine-tune your lineup or your first choice players a week out from the cup final. So that was one point, excuse me. And then the other point he raised around Sinisalo and more importantly Schmeichel was that, you know, he says that a lot of people have short memories, and Schmeichel's been excellent for us this season, and it was always a matter of getting him back in, and he definitely will drop out for the game on Wednesday night. So Sinisalo will come in against Aberdeen, because they'd already given him the week to recover and just see how his shoulder is post-match against Hibs. So obviously there's not a firm decision made on who will play in the cup final, but he's giving him every opportunity to show that he is going to be fit for that, and that's on the back of obviously a very strong showing the first 3 quarters of the season. But like I said, the upside's been that Sinisalo has been, you know, faultless really since he's come between the sticks. Dave, anything that you want to sort of comment on in the lineup before we move into the actual game itself? I know you sort of said that it was a very strong lineup in the group chat. Was there anything else that you wanted to sort of add to that, or?
No, not really. Only other than that, I know there's been a bit of criticism in regards to, there's not enough coming through from the B team, etc. Well, Boy McArdle come on and Johnny Kenny come on. You're not going to start them before the end of the season. It's not going to happen. They might get a start in pre-season, and see how they go then. But at this point, with the cup final to go, you're not going to start people from the B team who haven't had much minutes. You need to make sure that your team are flowing properly. I'll be absolutely flabbergasted if Kasper Schmeichel doesn't play in the cup final. Be completely flabbergasted. Sinisalo is an excellent keeper. He's only 21 though. He has got more games than anybody has expected due to the injury. Has Kasper Schmeichel got another year to go?
Yeah,
is that right?
We had the option, and we confirmed it 2 or 3 months ago. Before the injury, we confirmed he'd signed the extension. So yeah, he'll be here till the end. Basically, going into World Cup or Euros? World Cup?
Yeah, I think so. Brendan Rodgers, I think, has to give Sinisalo at least one of the cups, or if not both domestic cups next season. I agree with Paul on that. He's got to get at least one, if not both, because if he's the succession plan, which it seems as he is, and he seems as he's got the ability, he's got to get the game time. He's got to get the pressure up. He performed well in the derby. I don't think he done much wrong in the derby, which was a good play. But he needs to get more consistent pressure, just to see how he handles that. And if he does, it's all right doing it in one game when the adrenaline's going through you, but can you do it consistently like a Kasper Schmeichel? Let's hope he can. He's finished number 1 or finished number 2, so he's at a good level. I've got no doubts that next season he'll get time, and he'll probably be a number 1 going into the season after. Even if Kasper Schmeichel signs an extra year, I think maybe Kasper would be the backup. I hear that Scott Bain is on the way out. I don't think he was ever Celtic class. We need a third keeper, I think, to be perfectly honest. We need somebody, because
Toby Aliemu is on loan at the moment, and he's getting game time. I can't remember where he is, but he's quite active on social media, so he seems to be getting game time wherever he is at the moment. So maybe he potentially slots in as a third choice, or do you go to the other end of the spectrum and bring in a senior player who's happy to sit in the bench and do a Scott Bain for a couple of years?
there was talk last week of is it Jack Doohan? No, Jack Doohan's the racing driver. The kid Doohan at
Brothers,
Ross Doohan.
Ross Doohan, yeah. So he's at Aberdeen. He came through our books, 27, 28. And I've seen a bit of commentary saying, well, why would you do that? But I think it makes, if Bain's going, it looks like he is. He's 33 years old. I think he's realised he's probably made quite a lot more money than he expected to make out of his career being sitting on our bench. And he's probably finally gone, well, actually, I've only got maybe 3 to 5 years left. Let's go and play some football. So the rumour is he wants to go with a season to go in his contract. We'll get a little bit of a fee for him. It makes sense for a Scottish goalkeeper to be the third, because they're not going to play, right? It's an absolute, it's going to be an absolute disaster zone for the third choice keeper to play. So it actually doesn't matter too much who it is. They just have to be vaguely competent and be good around the club.
Tick a box.
They need to tick a box. Well, Scottish, but not only Scottish. He'll count his club trained because he came through our youth team. So he ticks the club trained box, not just the Scottish trained box. So that to me is as strange as it sounds, and weird as it sounds, and it's completely uninspiring as it sounds. It makes total sense. So I could well see if Bain wants to go out and play some football, I could well see us picking up somebody like Ross Doohan or another Scottish keeper to sit on the bench.
We're not going to get an inspiring third choice keeper at Celtic. Nobody's going to come up and do it unless it's somebody like we take somebody on loan who just needs to train with somebody for a year. You know,
but
like
in fairness,
bizarre.
like the amount of actual defensive work a goalkeeper for Celtic has to do most of the season is fairly minimal. Like it's compared to like teams where you're strapping at the bottom of the league and you're constantly having to make saves. Some games you're lucky if they make 2 saves in a match, and like it's just taking a few goal kicks and quick distribution and things like that. So maybe look at things like, quick distribution. I'm mindful that we're about 15 minutes in and we haven't actually really started talking about the game yet. So we better crack on because we're obviously trying to solve next season's problems in the start of the chat. So possession-wise, overall 76% to Celtic, but in the first half, 80%. And that goes back to my point. I just felt we absolutely just ran over the top of Hibs and just didn't give them a chance to breathe. Every time they got the ball, obviously, they got their couple little forays up, which, Martin Boyle offers you that sort of attacking license, I guess. But we just didn't give them a chance to even get on the ball. We just snuffed it out, gave away maybe a cheap free kick here or there just to break up their play. And then we won the ball back and we just put them under pressure again. And it was an early chance. Engels whipped a really dangerous ball across at about 9 minutes. That was really the first sort of chance. And Maeda just not quite there. But again, the pace on the delivery was dangerous and it sort of bypassed everybody in the end. Paul, obviously casting your mind back. How did you think we started? I'm sort of like going, yeah, we're on here. Because the first 10 minutes of a Celtic game, you can generally tell whether we're up for it or we're going to go through the motions and churn through the gears. But I kind of felt we were probably in third gear early doors and just, maybe slightly wasteful. A few chances probably going to begging, but I just kind of felt it was only a matter of time before we were going to score. That was my opinion. But what did you think?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. That it felt like Hibs were happy to contain, and potentially hit on the break, and they played a few longer balls. They were done under the cosh, right? Really, just we dominated, as you say, we dominated the possession and we dominated the territory as well. I think it's positive. I agree with you. If we'd gone in at halftime, even drawing would have been a bit of a travesty, to be honest. But certainly, if we'd been behind at halftime, it would have been about as a smash and grab as you get in a one-sided match. But we just like you say, a wee bit wasteful and just not quite there. I thought for a good chunk of the first half, actually, pretty much until the first goal, it was the final ball wasn't quite there. The final act in the move wasn't quite there. Ida was a little bit wasteful, although getting good running in behind, getting into good positions, and we were finding him. So that, in recent games, sometimes we haven't even been finding the furthest forward player with the final ball. It's sort of been breaking down that one pass early. This time we were actually getting him in. But yeah, he had 2 really good chances that on another day you'd be expecting him to tuck away. And just generally, we sort of dominating the midfield without kind of making it really count. But there was, they only really had two opportunities in the box. One, Boyle should score.
I thought he was offside.
He was 100% offside. It was 100% offside, but he should have scored. Casper makes a good save.
Great save. It's a great save.
And yeah, I don't know if the flag goes up in the end or it goes up late, but I think they got the corner, did they not? Or I can't really remember how that panned out, but it was a good save. It was 100% offside.
The flag didn't go up. So
and we might come on to officials later if we've got time, because I've got a few thoughts on that again. And then obviously, they get the goal as well from just a big hump up the park and really poor defending.
I guess the other thing that sort of springs to mind is obviously Ida had his 2 sort of one-on-ones that I felt he kind of probably lashed at them both a bit early. He probably could have taken an extra touch and gotten a bit close, especially the second one. He sort of took that one really early. I don't know whether he ended up being offside for that one. I can't remember. But the point is he missed anyway. The other one was there was a couple of times that Maeda whipped a couple of balls like sharply across the box, and he was just like a foot away. And I guess it's all comes down to timing. But you're just sort of thinking, goodness me, like they're bread and butter sort of chances, and we sort of pass them up as well. And obviously Hibs scored, and you're thinking, oh, we don't have rue these missed opportunities, Dave. But you know, the enigma of Adamida continues, because we'll get on to our goals in a minute, but I guess we should probably talk about Hibs' goal first, because they did score before we did. So I think it was around about the 28th minute mark or something like that. Something like that from memory. I'll tell you in a second. It was 25 minutes. Yeah, it was close. So Martin Boyle gets a ricochet off Austin Trusty. Yeah, there's enough pressure out wide, I think, for the cross coming in. Campbell's just had a lash at it and totally mishit it. Trusty's, I don't know, sort of not turned his back on it, but sort of it's just hit off his shins and bounced to Boyle, and he's done well with the finish. Doesn't give Schmeichel any chance there. But talk us through that goal, Dave. Is there anything there that you feel that could have been done better? Where do you apportion any blame to any Celtic players?
I don't know. Well, yeah, yes and no. I mean, when I briefly saw it there, I thought, could Taylor get a little bit closer? But maybe he can't, because if he goes closer, then Cadden can just sit by him, maybe. But the ball's whipped in. I'm assuming it's Cadden that whips it in. And just before it goes, and it goes right over the box through to the other side. And Martin Boyle misses a free header. I think it's Boyle. The Hibs player has, like happened at Ibrox, constant free headers. We're giving up a lot of free headers in the box. But he mistimes the jump, and it goes past him, and then it comes back in, and that's when it comes off Trusty's shin. Trusty's just not looking at the ball. I think he takes his eye off the ball. It bounces off his shin, and like you say, why are we not defending these balls into the box? Is it no? You can't say it's because Vickers wasn't there, because he was at Ibrox, and he, not everything can be laid at his feet or on his head, but we don't seem to be defending these balls well. We always seem to at least go through one patch in a season where we can't defend crosses well. And I don't know where that comes from. I don't know if it's just the style of defenders we're employing or are getting on the pitch because we want ball players. So we're having to give up that little bit for the ball players. But to me, being able to defend, going out with Martin Boyle into the edge of that kind of 16 yard area when he misses that header and challenging him and clearing that ball, that's bread and butter for a defender, for a centre half. So that's, and then the ball comes out, and as I say, it's a comedy of errors, as they say. I think you can't blame one particular person, but I think we're just a little bit lackadaisical there. Again, trying to defend it. Nothing you can do about the finish. There's nothing you can do sometimes about the luck or the ricochet landing at Boyle's feet. But if you make that first header, go engage him there, it doesn't go out to the other side of the box. You deal with it there and then. So yeah, the blame would be culpability towards the two centre halves or whoever's in the centre of the box, no dealing with that first ball.
Paul, in memory, is Trusty giving a goal away like this earlier in the season? I feel like there was one he miscontrolled, or it sort of came off his shins, and similar.
The Falkirk game, I think he didn't get out well enough, and there was a shot from the edge of the box beating the bottom corner. I'm going to spread the blame around here. Both centre backs can have some of it, but Greg Taylor doesn't get off scot-free here. They absolutely, if they've targeted Taylor here exactly like teams have done all season. The first pumped ball up is directly into his corner. He decides to jump with a taller, stronger player, gets nowhere near it, gets caught under it, it goes over his head. That's what lets Cadden in the first place. He recovers, he gets back. I think he gives him way too much space. There isn't really anywhere. By the time Cadden's crossing it, he's pretty much on the byline. There's nowhere for him to go other than to chop back on his weaker foot. And he stands 2-3 yards off him and allows him to cross it. Now, he does swing his leg, and I think it does flick slightly off Taylor's leg, and that's kind of why it ends up as high as it does. I think it takes a slight deflection. But I agree with Dave after that. Both centre-backs are caught ball watching. That ball is in the air for a long time, and neither one of them goes and sticks a head on it. And that's all it needs to do to take the danger away. You stick your head on it there, it's up to the halfway line, and then you've got time to reset and restructure yourself. The only other comment I would make is, playing two left-sided centre backs. We talked a lot about having one of each. Playing two left-sided backs it gives you the same problems two right-sided does. You're imbalanced, and it's the right foot that needs to block that shot that Trusty puts in. He does try to do it with right, but I just think because it's not his natural side, he hasn't even got a very good block on it. He's not, it's not his strong side. It's not his strong foot. So then the block gets a bit it's a bit rubbish, and then it just breaks. And after that, Boyle tucks it away as he does. But the chance before that he was offside, that was poorly defended as well. Like that's sort of bouncing around in the box, and none of the centre backs are going and actually dominating that position. So yeah, pretty poor. And another example why I think we will and we need to go out and buy yet another centre back in the window, because there's still nobody that is good enough and strong enough to be Cameron Carter-Vickers' regular partner. And Cameron Carter-Vickers has had his own problems with injuries over the last 2 or 3 years, so there's no guarantee he plays every match this season as well. So yeah, despite spending millions and millions on centre backs, I think we still need to go and do it again.
We managed to score a couple of goals in the last 5 minutes of open play. Hibs obviously thinking that they're maybe going to get in here 1-0 up against the run of play, because obviously 20% possession. I think the poll says smash and grab tactics really. David Gray post-match was sort of saying, they put a lot of effort into the game, but I think a lot of effort in terms of just conceding possession. And I thought defensively they looked quite solid. Like they did make it hard to break them down, but when we did draw them out, we were finding those open passes that just were crying out for a decent finish. But a few people in the comments just saying that does every striker in history score every chance they get? But I think another day Ida could have had a hat trick quite comfortably with the number of chances that he had. He obviously does eventually get his goal, but the two goals in the leading up to half time, Nicholas Kuhn. And you have to say Adam Ida was instrumental in this goal, Dave. He's the one that acts a bit of a battering ram, takes Bashiri sort of out. Bashiri tries to take him out, and then the ball sort of breaks to Kuhn, who just has in the end, an easy sort of side foot into the net. It makes it look really easy, actually, but still, you've seen them. I've seen them missed. But, again, a wonderful clip ball from Tony Ralston, who actually did that a few times. Unlucky with a couple of those sort of passes, but just was finding his range, a bit Rory McIlroy-esque. What were your thoughts on that goal? Because I thought it was just desserts, because I kind of felt like it was coming. I was like, we just need to score here. We just need to put the ball in the back of the net, and we finally found the way. But Ida, big hand in that one. Although he doesn't, I don't think he doesn't go down as an assist, but you kind of feel like he should get half an assist for that.
I think he at the end of the day he makes it because him and Kuhn are basically running parallel, and he takes Bashiri out of the game by his run. It's not he does anything kind of physical. He just takes him by his run, because Bashiri has to concentrate on him, because he's the danger man, if you want to use that phrase, and that just gives Kuhn the space to take it around the keeper and knock it in. The movement is good, I think. I know he was offside a few times, and we said in the group chat, to me, I thought the linesmen, or the assistant referees, they are now, they seem to be very quick to flag us offside, and then other teams, Hibs being an example of the weekend, they were letting their play continue to see what happened before they would flag offside, like they're supposed to do now. But I take maybe the camera angle. We did say the camera angle might show it being closer than what it actually is, and it's just blatantly obvious. But I think Adam is making the right runs at the right times. He's still got a bit of maturity to go. I would absolutely agree with that. But this is his first full season playing as much as he has. I think he's learning each game, and he's coming onto a game. He will get goals for us. He has got goals for us, and I think that first goal that we scored is a good example of what he can actually bring to the team. It's not just about scoring goals as a striker, although that's what you're judged on. Everybody can see that. But some of the very good strikers are the strikers who take players away and take them away from other people, give other players space, because the opposition team seen him as a danger man. And I think that's a lot of what Adam Idah does. But he has got faults, and there's no doubt about it. But every player's got faults. I'm kind of with the comment. You don't score every single strike with every single chance you get. But yeah, I think the movement. Tony Ralston as well. You're right to mention Tony Ralston, because I thought he's been very good the past 2 or 3 games with Johnson out. He'll run through a brick wall for Celtic, but he's a lot better football player than people give him credit for. He's not just a battering ram, although that is he has got that in his game. He can pick a pass, and he's done it before, and he's got a goal in him from time to time as well. So I think a lot has to be said for Tony Ralston's pass as well, like you said, Anthony.
In Idah's defence, I do think there was times where the midfielder or the fullback who was playing the pass maybe took one extra touch too many, and he already made his run. And I like some of them he did go early, and some of them I felt like they probably could have played that pass a pass quick, like a touch quicker, and then he would have been onside. And obviously times he's run for the goal to perfection, which we'll touch on in a second. But Paul, anything from our equaliser that we haven't sort of commented on, and then you may as well take us into the second goal that takes the lead.
Oh yeah, I think Idah's obviously had a few offside. He's had a couple where he's got in behind and been onside. Both of those, as you say, you should probably do better on. John Clement's comment earlier, spot on. Both those times and the same was the one at Ibrox. He's probably got too much time to think about it, and when he's got that, decision making isn't always there, execution isn't always there. But when he's in and he doesn't have too much time to think about it, I think that's when you get the best out of him. He's just quite an instinctive finisher. His run for Ralston manages to dig out a bit of an angle on almost a straight ball, which is really good. Like he puts the curve on it, which kind of helps keep the guys on side. The players coming out as they're going back in, on first look, it looked like it could be tight. I'd say at this point the VAR for that was ridiculous. I think they took 2 and a bit minutes.
Well, the left back was playing everybody on.
Playing them on by a mile. The first look at a still, we can all see it's done. And they pissed about for 2 minutes. God knows what else they were looking at.
They were like trying to find something to chalk it off.
I assume they were looking at the Idah Bashiri contact, but as you've already said, Bashiri goes to take out Idah. He kind of does impede him slightly, but it's obviously to our advantage because he's not aware that Kuhn's coming in behind, opens up the gap, and the big man sort of, he's committed himself. And then, Kuhn's got a stroll in. But Hibs don't learn. In fact, they have an amazing chance as they cut in the box, and just as the player's going to cut in and shoot, he slips, and Scales is able to just sweep it up. He plays it out to Hatate. Hatate shifts it really well, a good sprayed pass out to Engels. Engels doesn't waste any time. It's not a difficult pass, but he gets it up the line nice and clean to Kuhn, and then Kuhn gets his head up, and Idah's made another great run. And I think this is the hardest of all his chances. I genuinely think he's got more of an angle. He's going away from goal, but he doesn't need a touch. The pass is perfectly weighted, and he doesn't have time to think about it. He just gets his foot around it and lashes it in the bottom corner. It's a really, really good finish. And on another day, it would have been the pick of the goals, but I think the third one is the pick of the goals. We'll get to that in due course. But I was pleased for him. He'd had a frustrating half for both us as fans and him as a player. Like I said, he'd been caught offside early. He'd had 2 really good chances, both of which I think I agree with you, Anthony. He rushed them both. The first one, on his left's weaker side, he just throws a leg at it. It's a decent save. It's a decent save, but he just it looks like one of those where he just not 100% confident, just lashes foot through it and doesn't really pick his direction. He hits that higher or lower, he probably scores. It's a good height for the keeper. And then the other one, he absolutely rushes. He's got way more time than he realizes. He's got it on his good side. He could take another touch in and move closer to the middle of the goal and open up the whole goal to go either side. And he just chokes a side foot, and it's an easy save for the keeper. So definitely a mixed bag for him. But I agree with the guys in the comments. You're not going to score every chance. Kyogo didn't score every chance. Even Henrik Larsson didn't score every chance. Although he probably scored more than his fair share. But you'd much rather your striker was getting themselves into those positions, because at some point it will click. Confidence will go up, and more of those will be converted. So I think he happy enough with it. I think he can be happy enough with his day's work.
It's interesting. There was a table on the BBC, the sports scene, that had Kuhn, Maeda, and Ida. And Ida only converts about 30% of his chances. So he's definitely lower than the other two, sort of the line.
It was. I've got this. I've got it in front of me here. It was big chances. So these are ones that are like the easiest of chances, I guess. Kuhn 17 big chances, scored 8, missed 9, 47.1% conversion. Maeda 31, scored 15, missed 16, 48.4. Ida 26. So for his game time, we speak a lot about his game times. 26 big chances, only significantly more than Kuhn and just behind Maeda. 8 scored, 18 missed, 30.8% conversion. So little bit of work to be done there. But it should be said that Kuhn and Maeda, especially if we look at Kuhn's first half of the season and Maeda's whole season, they've been absolutely flying. So, there
are different stages in their career. So, I mean, we're comparing like your best players with someone who's still developing as a player. And as Dave said, rightly said, it's his first full season in a Celtic shirt. He never really got the pre-season because he was at Norwich. So, I think, there's definitely a player there. And I think somebody else said in the comments, I started earlier, he just scores the sort of goals that no one else in our squad can sort of manage. And I agree with that to a point. And again, Rodgers sort of mentioned it in his post-match. He sort of said that I think we've become accustomed to the Kyogo, Maeda mold of centre forward, that explosive, pacey, centre forward, whereas Adam Ida is something a little bit different. He says he's powerful and he's fast in his own way, but he's just a bit different. And I think that's probably where maybe sometimes we get a little bit carried away as fans saying, "Oh, he's not this, he's not that." Well, he's not Kyogo, but he's never going to be Kyogo. But in saying that, the team has to play to his strengths as well. So time will tell. And like I said, I think there's definitely. Would I rather have Adam Ida in my team or Cyril Dessers, who both have scored similar number of goals this season? I'd take Adam Ida any day of the week because he's got a far higher ceiling than good old Cyril over on the other side of town. But that seems to be the comparison that the media is sort of drawing at the moment. So we're going at a half, 2-1 up. Like I said, I felt justly deserved. Came out in the second half. I think the first real major instance, a little bit of handbags between Jack Iredale and Nicholas Kuhn, which seemed to be over nothing really. I mean, I think Kuhn sort of kicks the ball away and then...
he megs him. He megs him.
Oh,
so basically, the ball's on the ball... Engels has tripped their player on the edge of the box. They've got a free kick. Iredale's going to collect the ball or to maybe look to make a quickish free kick. And Kuhn just pokes it through his legs and takes a piss out of him. And then Iredale's about a head taller and grabs him. And Kuhn, fair play to him, you want a bit of fight in your player, stands up for himself, grabs him back. And then Big Ida comes in to try and sort it out. The goalie's in. And it's a bit of short. There's nothing even more than, there's not even really pushing. They just grab a hold of each other and then don't let go. And the ref does what refs always do and just goes, oh, well, one each. You can have a yellow each. This might be a good time for me to complain about a little bit of the early refereeing because in the first half, Iredale was guilty of it, and I think Boyle as well. And this was before I fell asleep and I'd had a few beers, so memory is still pretty good. Boyle had a one where we had a free kick in the left back area, and he just kicked it out of play or stood over it or knocked it, knocked it away. Yes. That's a yellow card all day long. Nothing given, just a part. I think he might have got a wee talking to. That was it.
There was a talking to. Yeah.
Then at the other end, I think we've got a corner or a free kick in the wide area, and just as we are looking to try and do that and restart play quickly, Iredale has grabbed the ball so that we couldn't take the corner with that one, and then the throw in, as we go to then take the ball back in the play, he throws the ball back in the pitch. So there's 2 balls on the park. And I tell him that's a yellow card all day long as well. So I just thought the ref was slack. Just a classic example of standard yellow cards, but you let those drop off and you allow people to continue to throw their weight around. Because if Iredale gets booked for that one in the first half, which is absolutely a time-wasted booking, you know, whatever they call it, gamesmanship, bad sportsmanship, whatever, it's a yellow card all day long. If he gets booked for that, is he getting involved in a scrap with Kuhn later? Is he? He isn't. Of course he isn't, because he's going to walk. So it's just this kind of like, yeah, the ability to sort of to give players more latitude than they otherwise would have if you just referee them to the standard you're supposed to referee them to. So I thought he let a lot go. And I think the first time he pulled a card out was for this incident, which was literally handbags.
Yeah, listen, I hadn't really remembered those. I remember that you're talking. I just want to point out here that I've been talking about referees all season. I think we know our relationship with referees is at best strained, but they can't get away with the same level of, I think, blatant decision-making issues that they've had in the past because of VAR. However, they do it other ways now. They let these things go against us. We don't. I've mentioned, and I'll keep mentioning it because it's relevant. We have 80% possession in games, and we give away more free kicks than any other team. Almost every game we're playing against, we seem to have higher free kicks awarded against us than the other team, and yet we've got the ball most of the time. I think it's something. If it's not deliberate, then it's a high level of incompetence. If it's in any way subconscious or unconscious or whatever, because they want to try and help the inferior team, especially at Celtic Park, well, that's not what your game's supposed to be. You're supposed to be impartial in the middle of the park. You're not supposed to be giving people opportunities to get away with stuff. And there's definitely a pattern in this. I know that phrase "pattern of assistance" has been used a lot over the past couple of seasons, but there's a pattern in this because it happens every single game.
Yeah, I do think it takes a while for referees to find their cards, and I think if you sort of issue an early yellow card for a bookable offence, I'm not saying book someone for something that's not a yellow card offence, but last time I checked, kicking the ball away blatantly is a yellow card. I mean, so you do that once, then nobody else is going to do it, and then all of a sudden you set the standard. It's like, well, if you do that, it's a reminder that yes, that is a bookable offence, and so on and so forth. But here we sort of mention this most weeks, but here we are again. Dave Max saying here, oh no, so that was the wrong one. Dave Max saying here, hi guys, I found your channel. Welcome to the show, Dave. Get involved in the chat, and that's a good time just to sort of say, please like and subscribe to the episode. It does help other like-minded Celts find us on YouTube. We're also on all the other major social media platforms. Take your pick. Pick of the goals. Third one. Total football. Passing. Wow. Just like David Gray was saying, we should look back at the goals, and I think they're defendable. And as much as Celtic played really well, I feel like we could have defended better. But I don't know. I'm a defender. I couldn't see a way of how they could have defended that goal any better, because it was just pinpoint from Celtic, Paul. The passing was just crisp, and Hatate with top drawer finish. And Brendan Rodgers again mentioned somewhere in one of his post-match interviews that he's finally found a way to communicate with Rio Hatate. It's only taken him most of the season, but he's definitely 2 seasons, yeah. But he's definitely found a gear later on in the season.
Yeah, no, I think David Gray's probably looking at the initial cross. Well, no, and the initial cross of this one. So Meira crosses it in. The keeper sort of lets it he goes to grab it. He doesn't hold it. It sort of squirts out of his hand, and that's when it sort of breaks in the box, and Mayhem goes on from there. If the keeper gets a solid catch or just goes and punches it clear, then obviously what happens after that doesn't happen. But yeah, 4 of them involved in the one-touch stuff. I think Kuhn's pass into McGregor's really good. He sort of gets his sort of hip over it and sort of drills it in the ground. McGregor's then probably the loosest pass of the 3, but he manages to get it out to Engels, and it's rising a bit. I think Engels' pass into Hatate is absolutely class, and I'm obviously a massive Arne Engels fan, but you saw both in the post-match interview and on the pitch, Hatate went he was giving the finger and the big smile to Engels, because that is a really, really good pass. It's bouncing up at him. He clips it down. He hits it with enough pace to get into Hatate's path, but not so hard that Hatate needs a touch. It's just into him, and then Hatate's first time onto it. It's a great finish as well. He sort of whips it into the bottom corner. But yeah, I think that once it's been passed first time around the box like that, you can't defend that. And yeah, the time to deal with it was the initial cross into the box. But yeah, really good play for the midfielders and Kuhn, and a great assist and a brilliant finish. So yeah, icing on the cake. And I think, as David Gray said in his post-match comments, that pretty much knocked the stuffing out of him. It was game over from there.
Oh, I think we've got a candidate for the funny comment of the night. I love Babylon by David Gray. Why did he give up music to manage Hibs? Dave, what was your thoughts on the third goal? Because I think we can all agree that was, potential goal of the year, but I think they've sort of voted on that already. I think that's done and dusted now. You miss out if you score in the last couple of games of the season. But
I think that the one touch passing, and we've seen it in fits the starts of the season. When we play like that, I think we're untouchable. We're completely and utterly untouchable in domestic football, because we have such talent in our midfield that can do that. And as like you say, Callum McGregor's isn't the best pass, but he manages to do enough because he's got that ability to get enough out of it. Engels I'm with you. I think Engels is an outrageous talent, and I think he's going to go really, really far in the game. I think Hatate, I'm glad Brendan Rodgers at this point has found a way to communicate with him. I hadn't heard that, because maybe he can communicate him into signing a new contract. Because I think he's somebody that we need to try and keep a hold of. And I just think that when we're on that type of form, we're so good to watch. We're so good at the passing and the moving. We've not had it for a sustained period in this first two seasons of Brendan Rodgers' return. We've had it at bits and bobs. We had it at the start of the season for a wee bit. We fell away. Last season we had it towards the end, and we didn't have a great start of the season, all that sort of stuff. I just wonder if next season we're going to see it for a good 90% of the season, and it might just be that way to do it, because if we can keep that midfield together, and I think include the strikers as well, kind of the forward 6 or 7 players that we've got in the team, I think we're a very, very, very good footballing side. And that goal epitomises it, because I don't think there's any other team in Scotland that could do that, that could play that way.
No, I agree. I'm not going to argue any of that. That was all, valid points. And yes, I think in an ideal world, if we retain that midfield, that would be fantastic. But I think the reality is, expect a few to move on and some new players to come in, because that is the Celtic way. Whole host of changes, 5 subs made. James Forrest, unfortunately, yet to score this season. He had a good chance. He was offside, but keeper pulled a decent save in the end. But thankfully, it probably was better that he didn't score and it was offside, rather than scoring and then it was offside. That makes sense. So he came on for Kuhn. Bernardo comes on for McGregor, and then Johnny Kenny, Luke McCowan, and young boy Sean McArdle from B Team, who Brendan Rodgers saw in the Glasgow Cup final, I think, and sort of caught his eye. He got a good run, and I have to say, very tidy on the ball. I did like, every time he got the ball, he retained possession and found some good passes. One particular pass, he sort of turned and sprayed it out wide, and I went, yeah, that's sort of in line with what you're looking for. Unfortunately, couldn't get any more goals, but I think by that point, Hibs knew they were on a hiding to nothing and sort of shut up shop a little bit. And 3-1, take that any day. I think Mahesh said on stats it could have been 4-1, would have been a fair result. I don't know where the one comes from their 2 chances that they had, but whatever. And then my old man here saying on another day it could have been 6 or 7. Well, yeah, definitely could have been. Dave Mack really want Forrest to get a goal before the end of the season. Don't we all? I think James Forrest wants it more than anybody. He's shooting from everywhere at the moment. He's probably just trying a wee bit too hard. He probably needs to relax, and it might happen. But we'll see how we go. Any final sort of thoughts from the game that we haven't covered? Anything that you saw that we want to bring up, Paul? We'll give you first chance to.
Probably just as I find it a bit weird that the substitutes came as late as they did in this game. Like 3-1 at 58 minutes. The game is pretty much done at that point. Yeah, I think it's 73 minutes before Bernardo and Forrest come on. 80 for McCowan and Kenny, and okay, Sean McCardo, you bring a kid on 5 minutes plus added time is probably the starting point for a kid. But I just think he talked, obviously, like I said at the top of the show, he talked about rotating the squad, talked about giving people chances, and the game's done and dusted before an hour's up, and it still takes another 10 minutes plus to get players on the pitch. I just think
That's fair.
If you can't risk it at 3-1 up when the league's already done and dusted, I don't know when you can. Like, I agree with who's the snitch. He's saying Bernardo is the man. I really think he's been unfortunate with injuries and other players' form, and some of the politics potentially with Engels' fee. I think if Hatate goes, and I think there's a reasonably good chance that happens, I think they'll be hoping that Bernardo steps up and he's part of a regular midfield three. For next year, we will obviously sign somebody else to supplement the midfield, and that might be Lennon Miller. But I think there's enough talent within Paulo Bernardo that he should have probably had more minutes this season. If he hadn't been injured, I think he would have. And I certainly think he's capable in a first choice midfielder for Celtic. And yeah, it'd be nice to see him get some game time Wednesday and on the weekend.
Stress Sausage Mick just saying here, no hands at Hampden, but Rangers did win the Best Pitch of the Season award.
I know,
so
they
did win a trophy, even though they never kicked a ball on it for the first 8 weeks of the season or 9 weeks of the season. So I mean, no wonder their pitch is in better shape than everyone else's. It didn't get the ball didn't get kicked on it for the first 10 weeks or whatever. So anyway, that's the only trophy they've got to clutch this season, other than the usual imaginary trophies that are now, which is apparently somebody on Wikipedia has changed the table to include all their second, third, and fourth tier league trophies as trophies to make them look more successful than the rabble that they are. And their takeover rumbles on. So long may that continue. And that's enough to say about them. Dave, was there anything that you wanted to sort of touch on the game that we haven't brought up already, mate?
No, I mean, I agree with the Bernardo situation. I like him, and I think I agree. I think it's probably just that when he got injured, we seemed Engels was playing really well, and Hatate, you can't even really drop Hatate. So he's that kind of maverick about him, and you're never going to drop Callum McGregor. So he's just been unlucky not to get back in. I wonder if Brendan Rodgers has had that word and said, "Look, you are absolutely part of my plans for next season." Just the way things happened.
I think there's a very good chance that he could get a game on during the week against Aberdeen. I think.
I would be very surprised if he doesn't play. Yeah. He should be starting one of those games. If he doesn't start one, yeah. In regards to the team overall, I think I seen a clip of one of the other podcasts on whatever format I was on, whatever forum I was on, and it was saying we're always 2 or 3 players away for having a really good side. For the past 10 years or so, we've just been 2. And look, the game is what the game is. The environment is the environment. We move that player on, or those 2 players to just get a fee that we can't say no to, etc. And then that puts us back to starting, the starting block again, starting from the first square again. And I just wonder if there's going to be a little play made to say to Maida, to say to Hatate, going to give us one more season. Going to give us one more season and just let us see what we can push, if we can push that wee bit further, maybe in Europe and things like that. And look, you don't know, because money talks at the end of the day. Money talks for the club, money talks for the player, money talks for the agents, and that's unfortunate. But I'd like to see us try. I think I've always been a big defender of the board and saying I don't want us to risk our financial future on pie in the sky, trying to get into the next level of the Champions League and stuff. But the reformat of the Champions League has helped. We are absolutely financially secure. I think we can now look at playing players a little bit higher than we have done in the past. I think we need to look at maybe increasing the wage structure and trying to get Hatate, Maida. I'm not saying for everybody. I don't think we should be paying everybody 60 grand a week or anything like that. But we need to be looking and saying, look, give us an extra season, give us an extra 2 seasons. Just let's see where we can go. We'll build it round you. give Adamida the chance as well at the same time to not be thrust into, right, you are now our main striker, Paolo Bernardo, and you are now there to take the place of Rio Hatate, because they're different players. You can rotate, you can find ways of bringing them into the team differently. I think as well, the other thing that I'm a bit critical of is Brendan Rodgers not being able to change his tactics when he has to from time to time. It's not often he has to do it, but the 4 or 5 derbies this season against Glasgow derbies this season has shown that they've found a way to kind of combat our midfield. We need to find a way of getting around that, because they're going to do it next season, regardless of who's in charge. They're going to do that again. So we need to find a way of being better, or finding a different tactical way of doing it. Is that maybe having an option on the bench that's just slightly different? I don't know. Brendan Rodgers knows more than I do, but we need to look at these options. So I think it's time for the team to develop. I don't think we're in transition, and I don't think we need major surgery on the team, but I do think we need a couple of changes.
I think you've got to be careful of keeping players that don't want to necessarily be there. So if they're looking for a new challenge, then I definitely wouldn't be standing in their way, money or not, because if they want to go, you let them go. And it's the same in any sport, AFL, soccer, whatever it is, because you only want guys in your dressing room who genuinely want to be there, or they want to develop themselves so they can then get a move somewhere else. But if they're ready to move, then you've got to be very careful of saying to someone, "Oh, just stay one more season," because that was the 10-in-a-row season. That's the one that always sticks in everyone's mind of, like, we ask players to stay an extra year, and it stuffs up your sell on, because all of a sudden a player that has 2 years left on their contract only has 12 months on their contract. So you sell them for less, and it kind of starts stuffing up the model. So you've got to be careful about that. I'm not saying that it's for everybody, but that's just one point I'd like to make. And another point Mahesh is saying here, Celtic's midfield is not sufficiently press resistant enough, and that's something that we might need to look at. I think you're right, Dave. I think we're probably 3 decent players short from having a completely well-rounded squad. And then the problem is, if you sell 2 players, then all of a sudden you need 5 players. And we're never going to get 5 players in one window. That's just never going to happen. So you'll probably bring in 3, and then you're back to still being a couple short, and then you get an injury. And then for whatever reason this season, I've said it multiple times, but we seem to get all our injuries in the same positions at the same time, centre-half, winger. And all of a sudden your bench looks weak, because you're going, well, where's our depth? But you take 2 first-choice wingers out your team, you're only left with guys who are getting minutes here, there, and everywhere sort of thing. So anyway, it's interesting, and again, these are all discussions to have in the off-season, and I'm sure it will rumble on. And the other confounding factor on top of all this is that Brendan Rodgers said unequivocally he's, at the moment, only there for 1 more season. So again, as a club, how much are you going to back him, knowing in 12 months' time he might not be there? And then you've got to find another manager who then has to inherit his players. So again, it's just another sort of thing. I mean, obviously, I'm not trying about Debbie Downey here, because we're going for a treble. And all right, we had a couple of bum results against the Huns this season. But all in all, good season. We're potentially going to break the record for the number of goals scored at home. I think we've got 1 more to equal it, because it was a Martin O'Neill season, 66 goals at home. So we're at 65 at the moment. So there's definitely a good chance against St Mirren at the weekend that we can break that.
And are we no kind of close to the Ange record of 112 goals? Are we not 108 or something?
We're 106 at the moment, so I don't see us breaking that in 2 games. I mean, it could happen, but you never know. But I definitely think the home scoring one's definitely a possibility. And this is the thing, Rodgers is trying to find every little stat and target just to sort of keep the team rumbling along. But for whatever he's doing, it definitely worked on the weekend, because, like I said, that was definitely a solid Celtic performance, and one that I thoroughly enjoyed watching. Needs 7 goals, so there you go. So that's basically a 3-0 and a 4-0. No, the realms of possibility, but we'll see. We will see. Man of the match, Dave. I'm ready to give you first dibs on this one. Since you've been on a couple of weeks, who did you think the man of the match was this week?
Looking at what I've seen, as I say, and trying to remember back, I would have to probably I'd go for Rio Hatate. I think he seems to have had a bit of form, and he seems to be, his passing and moving's back up. Does that coincide with finding a communication model with the manager? I don't know, but I think he's been very important in the past couple of games, and his goal as well, as I say, although it was a team goal, it is a great finish. It's one touch. It's his movement in the midfield has been very good the past, and it was good from what I remember. So I'll give it to him. Although I think there's probably 2 or 3 that it could have been, to be honest. But yeah, I'll give it to Rio Tati.
McLaughlin P also giving it to Rio Hatate. Pete McGee, Rio Hatate, man of the match by a country mile. Paul, are you going to agree with the crowd with your Velcro beard, or are you going to disagree?
I'm not taking that shit. I'm ignoring that. I would have, as a notable mention, I thought Kuhn goal and an assist looked good in parts, not fully consistent all game, but I thought he did decent. I thought Engels had another very solid game, rounded off with a great assist. On another day, he'd probably take it, but yeah, I think head and shoulders above everyone else on the pitch was Rio Hatate. And unlike some of the games in the last, I agree with Dave. He's come on to some form probably the last 2 months or so, 2 to 3 months. But for a lot of that, it was patchy. He's coming into form second half or last 30 minutes, really putting the hammer down. This game, he pretty much dominated it from start to finish. He was on it. His passing was good. His movement was great. He picked up some early through balls that should have had a better result. And then, finished brilliantly for his goal. So, not even a question for me. Easily one of the easiest decisions for man of the match this season. Rio Hatate by a mile.
Unanimous decision, Rio Hatate. Nothing more I want to say at that. Dave, any recommendations this week, mate?
I've not started watching it yet, but I'm looking forward to starting 0 Day with Robert De Niro, which is an American political thriller about a former president who gets dragged into a cyber attack investigation, and it seems to have a strong cast again. There's a lot of these episodic thrillers that are getting really strong casts, and I like that. You know, people you would consider movie stars rather than. So they're coming back into the kind of, because Netflix and Paramount and everything are throwing so much money at them, I would imagine. But I'm looking forward to that. I've not started it yet, but I'm looking forward to that. So maybe have a look at that.
Mesh made a shout for Ralston to be man of the match, 5 chances created, 15 passes into the final third. Yeah, that's a fair old shout. Just sometimes slips by the radar a wee bit. Mm-hmm. Paul, what you got?
0 Day is pretty good. I've seen it. I thought it was decent. It's good. It's a good few hours of telly. Not overly. I can't really remember too much about it now, but I remember it being quite decent. I can see Smelly Gloves put up Mobland. I'm 2 episodes into Mobland. Very good.
Mobland's awesome.
Excellent. But yes, still only 2 episodes in, but yeah, it's been good so far. My recommendation of the week, as usual, is music related. So I got an album recommendation. The band is called Soft Play. If you know anything about this band, until 2022, they were called Slaves. The name Slaves was chosen because of they're a punk band, so it was about being a wage slave. But obviously, with all the negative connotations of slaves, they had a little think and decided that they didn't really want to continue with that as a name. So they changed their name to Soft Play. They suffered quite a lot of backlash for that with the old, you're only doing it because you're too woke. And then they've channeled some of that negative feedback into some of the lyrics on their new album. So been around for a long time as a band, Slaves, but yeah, debut album under the new name Soft Play came out in July last year. And it sort of totally missed me, or I missed it. The album was called Heavy Jelly, really pretty heavy, but they re-released it, or they released an extended version called Heavier Jelly, with a further 6 tracks over and above the 11 original tracks. Those 6 tracks round out the album and make it a bit more, I guess, it's probably a bit more of a diverse album, still heavily punk rock sound, but it's some quirkier, slightly different changes in pace and tone. But yeah, Bad soft play. I'd recommend the extended version, Heavier Jelly, which came out just last month this year. So yeah, soft play. Have a crack.
Thank you, Paul. Slightly different recommendation for me this week. We've got Cheese, Searching for a Taste of Place. It's on SBS On Demand if you're in Australia. Will Studd, looking at the raw cheese movement throughout the world and how various governments and regulatory bodies get freaked out when you talk about raw milk and unpasteurized milk getting used to make cheese, although it's actually a very hygienic process because the good bacteria counteract the pathogenic bacteria. Very fascinating. If you like your cheese, you're into that sort of thing. Well worth a watch. So that's on SBS On Demand. I will also say it's coming to winter time in Australia, so Southern Hemisphere. So as you can probably see, get your flu vaccination. Protect yourself, protect others. A little public health notice this week. I think that's us. We've got one more show because I'm going to be in Las Vegas for the Cup final, which I didn't really plan on, but that's just kind of the way it's worked out. So I think next week might be our last show of the season. So we'll be reviewing the St Mirren game, which is Flag Day at Celtic Park. Obviously, we'll touch on the Aberdeen game from during the week. But yes, join us for our last show of the season as we celebrate another league title. And obviously, we'll preview the Cup final. But looking forward to that. Looking forward to having you both on again next week, guys. And as per usual, all that's left to say is hail, hail.
Hail, hail.
Cheers, guys. Hail, hail. Thanks.